welcome to my channel. I know it's been a while since my last episode. Last week I caught the flu. Surprisingly, I recovered pretty quickly, which is very fortunate, because usually when I catch a cold, okay, I don't know how to get rid of this thing, but yeah, usually when I catch a cold, it lasts forever because it leads to like cold, bronchitis, and yeah, just endless amount of coughing for a month or so. Now, before I get to today's episode, yeah, for those of you who do follow me on my socials, those of you who are aware or unaware, my ebook is finally out. So it's called The Only Book You'll Need to Become a Commercial Film Director. It's an awesome book that you should get, not only because it's my book and I'm selling it, but it's a book I wish I had when I started my career. I started my commercial career pretty late, and yeah, there's just a wealth of information in this ebook which helps you to really kickstart your directing career. And I wasted a lot of years doing odd jobs and such, and yeah, this is kind of like a shortcut into getting into the industry, and I provide tips, my experiences, and yeah, just commercial directing in general, and how to survive also the industry. And I should really stop doing this. As of now, you can purchase my book at my website, aswahan.com. It's only $5. Yeah, it will help you become a commercial director. It's so worth it. It's so rewarding. Why be stuck in at a 9 to 5 when you can become a commercial director and be doing what I do? Go get yours today. aswahan.com. Once again, only $5. I have like another side venture which is called Film Foo, the motorbike scene, which is way better. And Keanu Reeves saw that film and he said, I want to shoot that for John Wick 3.
What's up, guys? It's Kels here, the homie Ashwa, and we're here for Film Foo.
And yeah, we just talk about film stuff in general, and this is more long form, so we talk for like 2-3 hours talking about current film trends, and yeah, what's happening in the film world, and yeah, just all things film. We're just think of a bunch of film geeks talking about film stuff, and yeah, it's a good episode to watch, especially maybe when you're on the drive or when you're doing some chores, just have it in the background. Film food. Today's episode is why it's an advantage to be good at editing, or just to have, or just to know how to edit in general. Before becoming a director, I was an editor, and I got my first hands, I guess, editing experience before digital editing, which is what we're used to today, like Premiere and Final Cut Pro, etc. My first hands-on experience with editing was using these big panels, and you would put like a SVHS or a U-matic tape, and you would edit between the two tapes, and you'll physically press the in point, and you go to the out point of the video out, and then you record. And yeah, it was a lengthy process, but that was how it was done back in the days. And then from there, I think my first hands-on experience when it came to like editing as what we know of today was iMovie. Premiere was available at the time, but it was a lot more, I'd say, complex as to what's available today from memory. Yeah, I just didn't know how to work out Premiere, and yeah, I just got into iMovie. It was really user friendly. Of course, there were a lot of limitations at the time. There was no slow motion or anything like that, and then from iMovie I moved on to Final Cut, and yeah, I just basically taught myself how to use Final Cut. Yeah, I used Final Cut for the longest time. It was Final Cut 7. Yeah, so for the longest time I thought I'd be loyal to Final Cut until they changed the entire interface when they moved on to Final Cut 10 or X or whatever you call it. But then yeah, and then from Final Cut I moved on to Premiere. I let go of Final Cut when they changed the interface. It just was not working for me. So Premiere was, and to this day I still use Premiere. I have played around with DaVinci Resolve, and again, not used to the interface. I have been using CapCut for certain things, like for some of these YouTube episodes, especially when it comes to text captions. It uses, I believe they use AI to put all the subtitles. And it's really good. It shaves off like a lot of my time. If I was to do that manually, like if I was to do that in Premiere, I spent a good hour or so. Yeah, and then from there I used After Effects. And again, After Effects was something I taught myself. And I remember during my call center days, yes, I used to work at a call center back in Sydney. So to get to work, it would take like an hour or so train ride. I would basically record these After Effects tutorials and be watching them on my way to work and back home. And yeah, back in the days it was Video Copilot by Andrew Kramer. He was a thing back then. After Effects was really happening because of Andrew Kramer. I mean, he would create these effects, like he would mimic these effects from like the latest films, and yeah, I tried it out, and yeah, results were amazing, and and he had awesome plugins and presets. The website's still up, videocopilot.com, but .net I believe, but it hasn't updated since. But he's got some really cool plugins like Action Essentials, and I think the first plugin I bought, or presets that I bought from him, was the optical flares. Action Essentials 1 and 2, and then he's got Twitch, which I still use to this day. I mean, it's really cool for all that kind of urban lifestyle kind of videos. But anyway, before I get carried away, so I got into After Effects, and for the longest time I have been editing for marketing companies and doing like small projects, and doing a few edits for like some indie music video bands. The question you're probably asking is, why is it so important, or why is it an advantage to know editing as a director? Usually when you get a board from the agency, you have a look at it, and before I get there, so commercials are usually 30 seconds, but they can extend depending on what they are used for. So for example, if they're used for like if they're used to be aired online or on TV or on some digital platform, then it can be from like 60 seconds to cut down to 45 to 30, then down to 15, and I think 6 is the shortest, I believe, 5 or 6. So sometimes you get a brief and they'll say, okay, this is a 45-second spot, and we also want to cut down of a 30-second version, 15-second version, and a 6-second version. Or sometimes, this is a 60-second spot, and we want to cut down of 45, 30, 15, because they use it for all sorts of different platforms, right? Like sometimes for the phone, for a YouTube ad, etc, etc. Just from having a look at the board, because I have years of editing experience, I can look at it and go, okay, yes, I think this can fit within 60 seconds or say 45 seconds. But then sometimes I'll look at it and I'll be like, I feel this might not, this may be a bit too long for, let's say, a 30-second spot. there are just too many frames and something needs to be cut out, or let's find another solution as to how we can reduce the duration but keep the message, if you know what I mean. So for example, if it's like say 15 frames, then you know roughly what, let's say it's 2 seconds each frame. But it's not always like that, because sometimes you have quick cuts and so on and so forth, and those quick cuts could be like a second or even less. So having experience in editing, it gives you a good, I guess, guide as to, you know, when it comes to timing and duration. Go away! Yeah, so it helps you understand timing and duration of for a spot. Sometimes you'll get a brief where they just give you an outline without a board, and so from that outline you would have to create let's say a board for them. Having that editing knowledge, when you put your board together, you will know, okay, this amount of frames for this sequence will should fill up 30 seconds. And sometimes you might board something up and it might be a bit too much. Like, I've done that a lot. Like in most cases, when I have to put together my own boards, it usually extends further than the amount that's required. So if, let's say, it's a 45-second spot, then I'll put together a board, and when I look at it, I'll be like, oh, okay, this looks like something that's going to be over a minute long. So I need to reduce this. Okay, how can I cut scenes, or how can I cut shots to meet the duration? From experience, you'll get better at this. Especially, I remember at the start when I was directing. This is something I got better at over time, and had a better idea of. It's just a feeling when you look at something and you be like, okay, you get a rough gist of okay, this should be able to make it within 30 seconds or 45 seconds or whatnot. Now there are other things you got to look out for as well, and that's like audio. But when it comes to voiceover or dialogue, now this can kind of get in the way of when it comes to the duration of a spot, because because if it's just visuals, it's quite easy to cut a certain scene to reduce it or extend it or whatnot. But if you have dialogue, that dialogue has to be there, right? It has to be complete. So when it comes to voiceovers, it's a little bit easier, because at least with the voiceover, you can record the voiceover and then see, okay, how long that voiceover duration is, and then you just cut your visuals to the voiceover. But then when it comes to dialogue, then that's a different story, because there are certain bits where a person's dialogue might be a bit too long, and then you realize, oh shoot, this easily gets past the 30 or 45-second mark, and after I put like these 3-4 lines, and then I need to put the super in. The super is like the end shot where you have the actual product and etc. Like usually you got to give that like at least a good 3 seconds, and then you're like, oh shoot, I've got this, but then I don't have 3 seconds for the super at the end. There's no room whatsoever. And so these are things you got to work out. So in instances like this, it's good to do like kind of like a mock-up kind of edit of that spot. But usually if you're just playing around with stills, it's not that accurate, because you put the still in, like for example, let's say it's a dance sequence, and that dance sequence you're just kind of guessing in your head. It's like, oh yeah, just a flip will be like 3 seconds. So you put the sketch in of like, let's say flip, and you give it 3 seconds, but then the actual action might be a lot longer. It might be 5 seconds. I would say that you can put stills in, but it's always better to put like a video, like an action or an animation, or you actually doing it yourself, and that way the the duration is more accurate. So yeah, so that's my advice is sometimes if you're unsure about something because there's a certain action and you're not sure how long the action of that duration is, act it out. So for example, if there's like let's say a fight scene and the person sets up for like a kung fu move and it's like whoa, whoa, like that, right? Like you might think in your head, oh yeah, that doesn't take long, it's just 2 seconds. But then when actually putting that action in, and you realize, oh shoot, it takes 4 seconds, and I need to either speed that up or speed ramp it, and sometimes I mean you can do things like jump cuts, which I used to use a lot before, but that's, I mean, it's good for certain things. I feel that it's cheating a little bit. Yeah, I mean there are ways of working things out, like speeding it up or speed ramp or jump cut, but maybe what you originally intended was to have that full action with that duration without speeding things up. Yeah, it's always good to time it and actually see, okay, this action is going to be 4 seconds and this is something I don't really want to sacrifice, so and the shots following aren't as important, so perhaps I can find ways to shave it off or get rid of it altogether. So yeah, editing, it's really crucial because it restricts you in a way, but you're using your, I guess, your creativity to kind of be like, okay, I need to really make the best out of what I have here, like within this time frame. I've got to make the best of it. So yeah, and it really teaches you, like it's taught me how to sacrifice certain shots which I really didn't want to let go, but it ended up turning out for the better. It ended up becoming more of a quality over quantity. And yeah, it happens a lot. I mean, there have been shoots I've been on where I've spent so much time on that one shot, and it's a really beautiful shot, and yeah, I just had to get rid of it because for the purpose of the entire spot, it was better without it. Yeah, you just get better with it over time. What's also an advantage of being good at editing is that after your shoot, you'll be working together with the offline editor, and it's always good to have this knowledge because you can guide the offline editor as to how you envision the spot to look. And so no one knows that vision more than yourself. It's always good to know how to interpret that vision to the offline editor. Now you might ask, why don't the director just do it himself? And like going back to my previous about letting go certain shots, it's always good to have a different perspective or a different point of view. For example, the offline editor might have something that you have never thought of, like using a certain scene, using a certain shot which you perhaps may have disregarded. And also the offline editor is not so, he's not as possessive of a certain shot because he's not the director. I mean, yeah, while directors tend to be a bit more they find it a bit more difficult to sacrifice a certain shot, or they might be a bit possessive of a specific shot, while the offline editor is not. So it's always good to have another perspective. So that's another advantage, is it's you can have a better way of communicating your ideas to the offline editor. Even like in technical things, like for example, I'm quite picky when it comes to speed ramping, because I feel a lot of editors don't do it right or don't do it properly, and so this is something that, for example, I may get in and be like, okay, look, like I'll tell the offline editor, look, this is something I kind of want control of, and yeah, and I just want to make sure that when I do like a speed ramp, it is smooth and not just like, I want it to be like a smooth, gradual speed ramp. I see a lot of speed ramps that aren't done properly, unfortunately. And so this is something that, because of my experience and my knowledge in editing, I am able to fix this issue or address this issue. So there are, I guess, certain strengths that as a director you might be really good at something when it comes to editing, which this offline editor might not be as, I guess, or might not be aware of, or might not put as much attention to that specific thing. Then yeah, it's, I guess everyone has their strengths in certain areas. Of course, the editor technically would know more when it comes to editing and certain functions and tools. And at the end of the day, you have to remember that not all offline editors are going to deliver your vision. Remember also that most offline editors, for them, it's just a job. They want to finish this as soon as possible and move on to the next one, because yeah, they just want to move on. And because it's like, remember, for them it's project by project, but usually for these offline editors, it's a job for them. They want to get it done as soon as possible and move on to the next project. And so you as a director, you want the best possible outcome for this project. So that's why with some projects, for example, like when it comes to a director's cut, if I put a director's cut together, then I make sure I collect all the raw files and I really spend a good, like, efficient time on that, on the director's cut. There's no time restriction, right? Because when it comes to a real project, it needs to be delivered by a certain date. When you're working on your director's cut, there's no due date, so you can spend weeks, maybe months on that director's cut to make sure it's to your desired vision. And yeah, and so that's why it's also good to know a thing or two about editing, because when you take that footage back home, you can edit your footage just the way you want, without any restrictions, without anyone telling you you cannot put this or you cannot put this certain take. You don't have the client or agency telling you, otherwise. This is your cut, which you want to showcase on perhaps maybe your website. There's the ultimate advantage of knowing a thing or two about editing, is that you can have full control of your own work, especially for director's cuts and maybe like a passion project also. I hope this episode was informative. I think editing is something I can talk about forever, because I've just had so much experience editing prior to becoming a director, and even to this day I edit things. I even edit my YouTube stuff and all those YouTube shorts and stuff you see. It's just, but it is a thing that it really takes a chunk of your time without you noticing, because you're just kind of playing around with the timelines and stuff, and mixing and sorting certain shots and scenes. But yeah, it's fun, especially like, for example, when I'm working on my passion project, and again, no restrictions whatsoever, other than just choosing the certain shots and cuts that I like. And yeah, I've just been having a lot of fun editing that. It's almost like a playground for me. Get to play with all the footage and choose the shots that I like and see what fits and what matches, and can't wait to show you. It's still a long way to go, because there are certain areas that are incomplete, and as a good I guess segue is that yeah, I'm doing my passion project, and you can help in donating to this passion project by going to my website at aswahan.com. There is a donate button, and yeah, help support the project. Another way you can help with the project is by becoming a member on my Patreon. So the tiers go from $0 to $5, and all the money goes to my passion project, as well as my new ebook, which I mentioned earlier. $5 that will go again to my passion project. So if you guys can help me out there, then yeah, that'll be awesome, because most of the passion project has been shot, but I do have a, let's say, phase 2 which I need to shoot, which is like another 20% of the remaining video. But yeah, if you can help out, please donate a small amount. Any amount is good. It would be helpful. Again, follow me on my socials. You can go to my Instagram at aswa_han. Please like, share, leave a comment if you have any questions about today's topic, about editing or anything else, or if you want to request for me to do an episode on touch on another area of directing, then please leave your comments down below. Yeah, check out Film Foo, and until then, I'll see you in the next episode.